Bitcoin surged past $10,000 on Monday, only to come crashing back down to 9,400 on Tuesday. It's what some refer to as the Bart Simpson chart. We just refer to it as another day in crypto. And on today's show, we welcome back Bitcoin OG Brock Pierce. We had the opportunity to chat with Brock at Virtual Blockchain Week and posed some interesting questions about the future of blockchain, cryptocurrency, and decentralization. Sharif may not like it, but we're about to Brock the Casbah on episode number 414 of the Bad Crypto Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Who's bad? Looking at coin market cap, should I buy or sell? Is it a bear or a bull? I just can't tell. Fluctuating like crazy in this world of Bitcoin. Crypto going up, crypto going down, crypto going up, crypto going down. Crypto going up, crypto going down, crypto going up, crypto all around.
What are you grinning at? I have to know what the hell you're doing.
So we talked to him during a virtual blockchain week.
Virtual Blockchain Week. Yeah. That is not an Asian reference though, right?
No, it's virtual blockchain.
Because Brock Pierce.
Brock Pierce, yes.
Not
Yes,
Brock.
that's who we got today. This is good stuff. Anytime you chat with Mr. Brock Pierce, it's like he really needs to have his own project called Blockchain. I don't know why he hasn't.
I don't know.
And it
Maybe
could be the bro token.
the bro token.
Yeah.
Just call it the
I got 4 bros.
just call it the broken.
You call that too. Welcome
Ken
back,
Bosak.
crypto, folks. We're starting off badly.
Ken Brosak can do that because he always tweets out have a what is it? Have a bro day or something.
Have a day, bro.
Have a day, bros.
Yeah, he needs his own bro token.
Yeah, Ken Brosak.
There we are.
All right.
Episode 400 something.
Yeah, we're off to the races right here. Bitcoin and beyond. And speaking of Bitcoin, you can trade it on eToro and you can get $50 worth of free Bitcoin from your bros here at the Bad Broadcast, Bad Crypto Broadcast. Whatever it is, go to badco.in/eToro. Follow the simple instructions if you are in these United States of America, as long as they are still united and states, then you can claim $50 in BTC from us. Actually, not for much longer, not because there's not a United States, but because we're going to terminate the offer soon. So I didn't mean that wasn't like a lie. It was just me being stupid and not realizing, hang on, this isn't going to go on forever. But go take advantage of it just the same. badco.in/eToro while it still lastifies. Get in on it.
This is true. Do it.
And now let's talk about the blockchain.
This guy's a really interesting background. Like, he started with the internet gaming entertainment way back in the day. He was in some TV shows and some movies back before that, but he was really in digital gaming and in-game, in-app currencies before crypto was even around. So this guy's been thinking about digital currency for a very long time. He's helped fund so many of the great projects that we know. He's an amazing thought leader in this space, and we are so honored and grateful to have with us today the one and only Mr. Brock Pierce.
All right. Brock, come on down all the way from Puerto Rico, no doubt. We're going to find out what the situation is there in Puerto Rico. Got to visit earlier this year and saw some of what is being built there, and really, really eager to hear about the work that he's doing. I can see he's joining now, so stand by for Brock Pierce. By the way, The reason I was testing my phone Zoom is in 8 minutes, the howling begins here in Denver, and I'm going to go walk out on my patio so we can all experience that. Hey, Brock, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm grateful. How are you?
Good and grateful also. Now, I know sometimes you get rainbows in Puerto Rico, but that is not really happening right now.
Yeah, no, that is not live in the background. That is green screen virtual background.
Yes, as is ours.
Before we start on this, good sir, I got a question for you. So when we've seen you in the past, you've had a black hat on, and now you're going to this new white hat. Have you gone to the other side?
Oh, I've got a bunch of hats. I've got white, blue, black, pink. There's a number of them. I just happen to have been wearing this one mostly because I have a few different houses, and because of the quarantine status of things, my hats are spread out, and I only have 2 hats in this house right now.
Now, I was actually planning on moving to Puerto Rico mid-May, and the airline has canceled my flights, and I'm putting it on hold over there on the east side of the island at Palmas del Mar. Where are you now?
I'm in San Juan. I'm right in the heart of San Juan in the city of Condado. But I spend most of my time around San Juan, but I also spend time in the east. I mean, I love the whole island. I mean, in the West Coast, you have Rincon, which is very sort of like surfer village. Certainly the place, if you want to surf every day, Rincon is probably the best place to be, but not the only place to be. I mean, Puerto Rico has like the best surfing and kite surfing on the entire East Coast. So, if extreme sports is a passion of yours, Puerto Rico is definitely one of those places you should consider.
I thought you'd be tanner. I was expecting a tanner complexion from you.
Well, I mean, part of it's been this quarantine. I haven't left the house in 6 weeks, so I had a nice color, and that's pretty much faded because I've been getting so little sun.
What are the temperatures down there like this time of year? Because they say that the coronavirus at a certain temperature, it kills it, and going outside is a good thing because being cooped up inside, people get. That's what they determined in the Spanish flu era was, oh, wow, people who are stuck inside get sick more. Go outside more and experience fresh air. And now they're telling everybody to stay inside and don't get fresh air, and people get sick. But like sunlight seems to kill it. So like, isn't it warm enough there to kill it?
Yeah, well, so vitamin D and sunlight, definitely a good thing. Though Puerto Rico was the first state or territory in the U.S. to impose a mandatory quarantine. So we have a curfew every night. At 7 p.m., at 6:30, our phones alarm us and tell us that we need to be inside by 7 p.m. or we'll get arrested and face 6 months in prison.
Wow.
And so we've had mandatory quarantine for 6 weeks now, and you're only allowed out 2 days a week based upon your license plate number in the car. Everything's closed. Only, to buy food, go to the pharmacy or the doctor. On Sunday, everything's closed. I guess you're allowed out three days a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, depending upon your license plate number. And so
has it been effective? Is it?
So we only have about little over 1,400 cases of COVID, under 100 deaths. Again, there's a problem with all of the data. Pretty much everything I would argue is substantially underreported because there just hasn't been a sufficient number of tests. We know the number of, it's coming up on 3 million global cases, and that number could be maybe even 10 times higher. It might be 25 or 30 million for all we know. Really, there's a bunch of speculation out there that this has been spreading since November, December, and that there might have been a lot more cases of people that had COVID and have recovered than that were not tested. We know that there hasn't been a sufficient amount of testing. So whatever the numbers are, it's higher than whatever's been reported.
Travis was really ill.
But we know the numbers in China are very accurate. We know that China's reporting is perfectly, definitely spot on. If anything, it's over-reported.
Yeah. Travis, you were really ill earlier this year after the North American Bitcoin conference in Miami, right?
Well, according to the Beastie Boys, I've been ill since the 80s. So I'm just but
I remember you telling me you were extremely fluid. You said it was like the worst flu you ever had.
You know what? It was so crazy because my son got it. I think because we went to Miami, and there's a lot of people who had mentioned that they had other people had gotten sick, but I didn't even think about it. We hadn't even really heard of coronavirus at that time. And, my son was down, and then I was like, come on, dude, you ain't down for a week. Are you serious? Get up, get your ass to school. What are you doing? You ain't sick. Well, I literally, have you ever heard of somebody having the flu for a week? And so he's like, man, Dad, I just don't feel good. I was like, man, are you serious? Like, we went to the doctor, and they're like, he's got the flu. I was like, what? And then I had it, and oh my God, I was down for. I remember Joel was like, hey, we got to do a podcast here. I'm like, dude, man, okay, but
Okay, I don't talk like this, dude. I mean, come on.
Sometimes you do.
Well, I have a lot of friends that believe they had it, though I have tests here in Puerto Rico, and so I've been tested, as well as a number of friends of mine. We've tested ourselves, and these are friends that believe that they had coronavirus back in January or February because they got sick with something that was flu-like symptoms. They felt wrecked for a week. But one of the things that we're seeing is that the tests, also there's serious questions about the efficacy of the testing. Mm-hmm. And the test kits. Also, we're seeing a lot of people, and you can see like data coming out of South Korea, where people that had tested positively, had recovered, and in theory would have immunity as a result of that, are then getting sick again. They're seeing like 5 or 10% of the people that recover coming back with COVID a second time. There's also theories or rumors right now that there's 30 different strains of coronavirus. And so not only is that it's mutating, but in theory, there's many, many versions of it. So there's questions as to whether or not you can even develop immunity that lasts long enough to protect you.
Which goes into the question around vaccines. Like, so if this thing is mutating so fast and quickly, and there's 30 different times around 30 different strains, quote unquote, then no vaccine is going to cover that. So why would they? One of the things that I always ask is like, well, why won't they tell us like, hey, do these things that boost your immunity, do this that makes, hey, do some precautions here. Instead of making everything mandatory in the world, in the land of where we have freedom, right? In America, we have all these freedoms, which are now sort of permissions. And if you go outside, you're going to get arrested and go to jail for 6 months. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, no, I'd say you definitely wish that we were given better. I mean, the social distancing advice was, sounds like very good advice at the time, but where's the rest of that good advice, which is get sunlight, get vitamin D, make sure you get plenty of sleep, try to exercise. What are the things that you can do to build up your immune system? Mm-hmm. Far too often we are not being taught preventative medicine, and best practices to just live a healthy life. Instead, we live in a world where it's all about, let's not tell you how not to get sick. And when you do get sick, let's just, the first reaction is chemical warfare and go right into pharmaceutical sort of Western medicine practices.
Joel has some howling going on over there.
Listen up. So this is Denver, 8:00 every night.
Is everyone singing from their balconies?
They're howling for the those on the front lines that are working.
I've got so much respect, so much gratitude to, those nurses and doctors and everybody working in the healthcare system, the firemen, et cetera, these first responders putting themselves in the line of fire. And so much gratitude for those people. And many of them have gotten sick. A number of them have died. You'll see, my understanding is that you guys are giving a percentage of your revenues to the Crypto Against COVID campaign. Is that correct?
Absolutely. 50% of all the VIP tickets are going to Binance Charity's Crypto Against COVID.
Yeah, a big shout out to you for that, to Binance Charity, to Helen and Jared Wynn and everybody over there. They're doing great work. And it makes me so happy to see members of our community and our tribe, stepping up and contributing and doing something. And I think it's important because so much of the world, we're a very misunderstood community because our industry has been largely sensationalized. And if you base it upon the press, you'd think that we're all criminals or drug dealers, or we only care about, pump and dumps and buying Lambos. And the reality is once you've actually looked at this space and understood it deeply, you realize this is a really smart, conscious community focused on impact and making real positive change in the world. And I love examples of when the community is demonstrating that, we are, we do matter, and that we are, taking our respective roles in the world of, influence and making a positive impact. I'm working very closely with Binance Charity, some exciting things that you'll see coming out. I spend a good portion of every day, working on supporting these first responders. I think you'll see some really amazing announcements of work that we're doing here in Puerto Rico soon. You can also check out one of the other things that we're working on, which is you can go to feedpuertorico.org. This is our food relief sort of program. One of the things that, people have often overlooked is that you've got, here in Puerto Rico, people haven't been able to work for 5 or 6 weeks. If you live paycheck to paycheck or you don't have any savings, I mean, this is really, really difficult times. People are starving. I mean, you're without food. And so this is a campaign we just launched, raising $100,000 to buy food from farmers to deliver in partnership with the Puerto Rico Food Bank, that we deliver directly to people in need. This is done through the Puerto Rico Food Bank. They're matching dollar for dollar. So for every dollar you give, the Puerto Rico Food Bank is matching that with an additional dollar. And so I'm all about, I'm a conscious capitalist. So I believe in, this concept of return on investment. And in the cases of, philanthropic work, return on impact. And one great example is anytime you can find a way to get matching funds, every time you give $1, $2 of impact. It bothers me. And I don't want to say that philanthropy or charity is broken, but I believe that there's tremendous room for improvement. And I think one of the main areas, and again, what Binance is doing and what we can do in crypto, is transparency, 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 and get rid of the leakage. And transparency helps with that as well. How do we improve efficiency? And anytime that you give $1 and $2 is going to the cause, I consider that to be, that's a return on it. That's a return on impact.
The government does it differently. I give the government $1, they gave me back 50 cents.
If you're lucky.
Yeah,
50 cents of impact is the most efficient government programs. And again, I don't want to just, again, I don't want to rant on government. It just, again, it's one of those areas where I don't want to say it's broken, but there's tremendous room for improvement.
Let's talk about what's going on there in Puerto Rico. There's a reputation. A lot of people call it Crypto Rico because there is a real stout crypto community being headed by, people like yourself and Michael Turpin. What started that there, and what's it look like now?
Well, so I started visiting Puerto Rico as a teenager, and then in 2013 and 14, I had a real concern for the industry. And that was, if you were around back in those days, Silicon Valley Bank was the only US bank that would bank crypto companies. And they were very selective in terms of who they banked. They banked Coinbase, Zappo, and Circle. That was it. And so if you were an entrepreneur and you were building an early crypto exchange or anything that needed, call it fiat rails, where you needed payment systems and banking, there was no way to get a bank account. And so what a lot of these companies did is they opened up bank accounts without fully disclosing the nature of their business. Now, these entrepreneurs didn't know that, but they were actually committing felonies. It's against the law not to fully inform the bank of everything you're doing and why, and the full nature of your business. They didn't realize they were breaking a law. But ignorance of the law is no excuse. And so I looked at this and I said, wow, this is a real systemic risk to our industry. We don't want a world where only 3 companies are allowed to operate. We're trying to democratize finance. We're trying to democratize money. We're trying to bring efficiency and transparency, in Math We Trust sort of stuff to the world. Clearly, this is a systemic risk to everything we stand for. And this is an area where if the government wanted to shut us down, it's one of the ways that they most likely could have, which is to round up every entrepreneur and arrest them for breaking a law they didn't even realize they were breaking. And so I was like, okay, I got to solve this. I'd never owned a bank. I was not my background, but I'm, one of those kind of like naive, enthusiastic, eternal optimist types where I'm like, oh, I can figure that out. And so I started looking at buying state chartered banks, federally chartered banks. I started trying to figure out, what I could do to impact change in this area. And what I realized, and figuring out how credit unions and co-ops work, what I realized is it was going to cost about $25 million and probably take 2 or 3 years. At the time, only Coinbase had ever raised a $25 million financing of any company in the space. And so either I was going to have to come up with $25 million or because there's no way I'd be able to raise it. And so I'm like, okay, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, well, there must be a back door. There must be a way to like, hack into this system. There must be a cheaper way to do this. And so I then came to the realization, what about Guam, Samoa, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico? I said these U.S. territories might be a backdoor to basically setting up a lower cost banking operation. And so I reached out to a guy here in Puerto Rico named Rob Rill, who's the head of the Act 20 and 22 Society, which is the tax rules here that make living here so beneficial. And I heard his whole pitch on, he's like, Brock, you need to move to Puerto Rico. I said, I think that's wonderful, but the opportunity cost is too great for me. I have too much work to do in the world. I wanted to talk to you about banking. Is there any way to set up a bank or buy a bank in Puerto Rico that could bank these cryptocurrency companies? He's like, yeah, as a matter of fact, there is. The same rules that allow for the no capital gains tax or the very low income tax, in those same rules, they created this other thing called Act 273. I go, what's that? He goes, you can create what's called an IFE, or an international financial entity. It's like a bank with all the rights of a bank, but it's not a bank. I'm like, that sounds awesome. I go, has anyone done that before? He goes, no one's done it yet. I'm like, all right, I'm on a plane. And so we came down here and we started the first crypto bank in the world in 2014 called Noble Bank, which a lot of people paid attention to, and I get criticized for it, having been one of the founders of Tether and having been partners with Bitfinex. Noble banked those early companies because that was the only bank in the world that could bank them. And clearly the conspiracy theories have they have a bunch of ideas about that, but it was actually a pretty major accomplishment. I stepped out of the operations of that business very early on. I don't think of myself, I'm a creator. I start things and I move on as quickly as possible. I don't enjoy running businesses. I don't enjoy managing, staff. I don't like managing large companies. When it gets to 10 people or 20 people, it's already getting too big for my liking. I like the process of being in the kitchen, coming up with the recipe and starting to make the soup. I like to be gone from the kitchen before it's even being served, and I rarely even get to eat from my own meals. And so I just enjoy the process of creation. And so that's what made me really familiar with, call it, all of the benefits of Puerto Rico. And so then in 2016 and 17, I started telling everyone, oh yeah, when crypto goes to the moon, when Bitcoin moons, we're all going to move to Puerto Rico and we're going to figure out how to do something positive and make a great impact. And so I was pitching people on this idea. Michael Turpin was patient zero, or the first person to publicly move to Puerto Rico as a part of that trend. I didn't come down until Hurricane Maria happened, because I'd been telling everyone about Puerto Rico. And when Maria hit, people are like, oh, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, this isn't the convenient time. I kind of really don't need to. This is the worst possible time for me to be moving to Puerto Rico. But the reason for doing this is to make a positive impact. And I can't think of a better time to do that. So much for convenience. I guess I'm packing my bags and moving. And so I came down here right after Hurricane Maria, before the power was on consistently, internet always going down. And we got involved in, a lot of philanthropic work, putting roofs on houses, feeding people, all the little things. I didn't really have a background in charity or philanthropy, so there was a steep learning curve, and I came down here bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and, I've definitely learned a lot of lessons, fallen on my face, but they're, fast forward to where we are now. Tons of people have moved down here. There is a real crypto community. It is one of the great crypto hubs in the world. And if you have an Act 20 company, you pay a 4% income tax on all exported services. So if you do work from here and you're servicing businesses outside of Puerto Rico, as an American, you can't beat that. And we have 0% capital gains tax. I mean, we don't pay federal income tax here. We don't pay federal capital gains tax here if you filed for these Act 22 or an Act 20 decrees, which we now call Act 60. I mean, if you own crypto and you trade crypto and you're an American citizen, remember, America taxes you on your worldwide income. It's just accounting for your taxes. I mean, if you're a crypto trader, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. You should be living in Puerto Rico, and it's paradise on top of that. Puerto Rico, you might not know it if you haven't visited. It's as amazing as Hawaii. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. So you live in paradise. You've got really great tax incentives, and you have the possibility, if you choose, and I highly encourage everyone to do this, to do something positive that helps other people. Give some money to like feedpuertorico.org if you haven't been doing anything to help people out. Give some money to Binance Charity if you haven't been like helping people out. If you're blessed with abundance, clearly that's for those of us that have been lucky. And many of us that have been in the crypto space and have owned Bitcoin or something else or Ether early on, a lot of us have made a lot of money, relative to where we might have been in our lives otherwise. And if you haven't, given anything to like help other people, I know some people don't believe in that stuff, but, I encourage, give a little. I truly believe the more you give, the more you get. I'm truly a believer in the concept, what you give comes back tenfold and more than, and why that is, it may not be like a spiritual thing. It just is that other good people see when you do good things and they're willing to give you a break. I know for me, if I see people that are out there doing good things in the world, because I'm being pitched, by people all the time. People want to work with me. People want my help. People want my money. I don't have time to deal with everybody and I have to prioritize. And when I see people that are out there trying to make the world a better place, I prioritize for them. And that might be one of the many reasons why the more you give, the more you get, is because other good people see the work that you're doing in the world, or they see the actions that you're making and they want to help you. Because I know if you're doing good work in the world, and if I help you have more and I help you become more successful, you're probably going to do more good work in the world. And so I prioritize you over, those people that are just rent seeking.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Let me ask this though, because I think now, because Joel was so like, dude, I'm going to Puerto Rico, and like, whoa, it is really draconian lockdown time here in Puerto Rico. And so, do you think that the way that Puerto Rico, because I don't know that people had even known how locked down Puerto Rico is that going to ding Puerto Rico's image? Maybe that from people who might want to come down there, knowing that look at how they could lock things down.
Well, I think it's really going to come down to the benefit of hindsight. As of right now, I think the government's decision to impose a mandatory quarantine early on might be in all of our best interests. I know it causes concerns for me about freedom.
6 months in prison because I was out.
By the way, I don't think anyone's actually going to do 6 months. It's either up to a $5,000 fine or up to 6 months in jail. In the end, we'll see, what the government ultimately does.
That's a little terrifying, dude.
It's still very scary. It's still very scary as someone that cares about freedom. And but in the end, if they prevented everyone getting the virus and saved a ton of lives, I think that we'll be forgiving of it. But in the end, if it ends up not having done much, it's something we should be very upset about. I don't envy. I definitely feel for anyone in a position of power right now having to make really difficult decisions, because there's no right answer, right? Do you just let everyone catch it and keep business operating as usual and, let millions, tens of millions, or hundreds of millions of people die? That's a very difficult decision. Or do you quarantine everyone, shut the economy down, and create an economic recession or depression? There's no good answer.
And people will die.
Whatever you do, it's bad.
Yeah.
People will die. They always die. And it's like they've never made a big deal about, America had 120,000 people die of the flu this year. Like, you've never heard those numbers, but now it's like 50,000 people have died of this. That's the most horrible thing ever. Well, wasn't a couple of years ago when we had more than double that worse? It's just so weird. It's such a strange time to be here on this planet.
I wish I had a good answer. The one side of me is like, hey, what the Japanese or Sweden is doing makes a lot of sense, which is those people that are most at risk should quarantine themselves. Mm-hmm. And those of us that don't feel we're at risk or are making choice that we don't want to protect ourselves, should have the right to do that and go to work. There's not a right answer. I guess we're not really going to know until we have the benefit of hindsights, but I'm always, I err on the side of freedom. And so anytime government is making, actions that encroach on our freedom and force business to shut down and things of that nature, all my alarm bells go off and I become very afraid for humanity and our future. But in the end, if it saves 100 million lives, which we still don't know what the impact is, Again, I don't envy anybody in a position of power having to make these difficult decisions right now.
Fortunately,
your options are bad and bad.
We don't have to, so that there's that. Let's shift to crypto then. I'd kind of like to offer you a really broad question and have you just run with it. Give us Brock Pierce's State of the Union on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
All right. Well, at a high level, I'm gonna go into the present, right? So Bitcoin and its price relative to COVID, right? You've got the world, we're definitely going through one of those major economic events that I think that most of us in crypto at least have been waiting for. We know that the system as it's currently run is not sustainable, and that, this sort of recession, this sort of depression, this sort of economic crisis, is one of those things that could have really positively impacted things like Bitcoin and crypto. And what did we see? We saw the prices drop almost in perfect correlation with the stock market, which, is a bad thing, right? We don't want crypto to be correlated with the financial market. And if the financial markets are falling, we would hope that if there is a correlation that it's going up, similar to gold. And it dropped. The stock markets have recovered more than crypto has, but that's largely because the stock markets are imaginary at this point. I mean, central banks and the Fed are printing money to a degree that the price in the markets, it's literally imaginary. The confidence in the markets being real and rational is like completely gone. I mean, this is just cheap printed money that is artificially inflating and propping up the markets, which, in the short term, great is protecting, I guess, holders of stocks and protecting the economy in the short term. But when you artificially pump the market, when the markets eventually do correct, it's likely going to become much more painful when it does happen. We're not far off from 10% off of all-time highs, and we're experiencing, economic collapse or impact on par with, 1929 to 1933. I mean, we're looking at something Great Depression style, sort of bad, and the markets are basically still near all-time highs. So I think that's a bad thing for Bitcoin in the short term. What that means is that hedge funds and holders of traditional stocks and bonds really are the primary drivers of the price of Bitcoin, meaning when they're selling off here, they were clearly selling off there. And so I don't think that means our future is necessarily connected to that, but what it means is that we're not as far along as I hoped we were. We're still in that sort of minimally viable product phase. We're still in that early phase. And I think that that's probably accurate when looking at products. Most crypto wallets and exchanges and just using crypto is still not very user-friendly. It's not the sort of thing that, your friends that are not really, the friends that need help, with setting up email, and it's still a large percentage, the majority of the population, right? They're not quite ready. And just the level of like understanding, it's still not in the, call it the general public is not like, doesn't understand why they need something like Bitcoin. Most people still have blind faith, in the system as it exists today. Now, what's happening right now could end up impacting that. This is, this set of events, this crisis very well could be the thing that, erodes trust.
I think more people are waking up, right?
Yes.
Because it seems to me that like people go, oh, this digital currency makes sense. For one, paper money's dirty and gross, and now they're just printing as many as they want. I think this right here is the ultimate red pill for so many people.
Yeah, no, I think that this crisis, and the silver lining in this is I do believe it is a core event in the Great Awakening. I believe that this virus is increasing the consciousness of humanity, on many levels. This is an opportunity when you're at home right now to get your house in order. And I don't mean that just like literally, I mean that figuratively. It's an opportunity to sit down and reflect on your life. It's an opportunity to restart, reset, to start doing all those things that you've been putting off. Read that book, learn that language, develop that skill, develop that meditation practice. When we come out of this, we don't want to return to normal. We want to come out of this better off. We want to build a better world, something that's hopefully more resilient, more sustainable, more regenerative. And so I think that this is going to be a very good thing for humanity when it's all said and done. Definitely a red pill moment that, and look at what the government is doing in many respects. I mean, I think that they've learned something from crypto. These SBA loans and, these $1,200 deposits, the US government is doing an airdrop. This is the largest airdrop in history. It's happening right now. And, who really kind of invented these concepts? What industry has brought these things to market? I mean, I'd say that's largely been us.
I'm going to drop some Trump bucks on you. We're going to do an airdrop. It's going to be huge. Everyone's going to get 1,200 of them.
I mean, essentially, that's what's just happened. I think it's great. I mean, I'm not a fan of government handouts, but I mean, at this time, but I'm becoming a believer in universal basic income. I prefer to think of it as universal basic sustenance because I know that robots are taking our jobs. I know that technology is going to be, affecting everyone. But I'm a conscious capitalist. I believe in economic incentives, right? People have to be incentivized to do things or they'll eventually just say, give me money. And so, but the world is changing rapidly. And so, I definitely believe if we're giving money to the people, that's probably a good thing, certainly in really challenging times like this. I'm not a fan of, bailing out companies, as an investor in companies, as a shareholder in companies. I'm a big boy and understand the risks. And I, know I can lose all of my money. I am not looking for I'm not looking for socialized losses on my business.
Oh, who's a big boy? Who's a big boy? You are. Yes, you are.
Yeah, but if I lose all my money, so be it. That's how it's supposed to work.
That's why it's, in America, we're guaranteed the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Doesn't mean you're guaranteed happiness. Means you're going to make choices and decisions, and maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. There's no guarantee.
And so we live in crazy times. And I do think that when this is all said and done, I think that humanity is going to be more conscious and more aware as a result of it. And that could lead to great things for crypto. Because I'm trying to keep this at the 70,000 foot level. What we've seen right now is that the world is not ready for Bitcoin. But I think what's happening right now, could be a great catalyst that, facilitates that adoption and facilitates that change.
70,000, was that a subtle prediction of Bitcoin price?
I certainly am still very bullish on Bitcoin. I'm still very bullish on, cryptocurrency in general. I'm still very bullish on blockchain technology. And we're going through, we're entering kind of the fourth phase or fourth cycle. I've been around and watched sort of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. This is kind of the fourth cycle, I'd say. When we essentially see the prices sort of run, at least, this is called the fourth major cycle. And I think that we're getting there. I also think that we're starting to see use cases beyond just, call it Bitcoin as a store of value or digital gold 2.0. We're starting to see decentralized finance. We're starting to see crypto lending. The idea of holding crypto and being able to receive a yield off of it, to have a fixed income sort of return, I think is a big deal. I think, call it Main Street expects that when you invest in something that there's a dividend, that there's some sort of yield. And I think that decentralized finance is certainly going to, help crypto, go mainstream. I think that that'll help. Though not something that I thought was essential in the sense that, gold doesn't have a yield. But, if we want to create a new store of value, if we want to create a new, sort of financial product that does all of the things we can say, we want to build a better mousetrap. We want our digital gold to be better than, gold. And I think having, decentralized finance and that yield is a big use case that is going to definitely help, I think, the industry and its development. We're still looking, blockchain. I don't think we have many proof of concepts that really validate the model. Steemit was probably one of the best use cases. Steemit's, and I'd say that's a very small example of success. Voice just came out, too early to say whether something will, come of that. But we don't really have any sort of, I'd say, examples of decentralization yet. that are proving, that are demonstrating that this is ready for mainstream. I think it's really just things like Bitcoin and decentralized finance today that are starting to be something that could go big.
That's right.
I
think we could talk for hours on some of this stuff here. I know we chatted with Tim Draper earlier. I would love to get you and Tim Draper on a chat talking about UBI, or as you said, universal basic sustenance, in a way that weaves in conscious capitalism. Because, the thing is about in socialist countries, if everybody gets the same thing, it just kills the incentive for people to drive innovation, to make things better, because they're like, all right, this is the way that it is. All right. Well, you know what? It kills innovation. And I think that you got some great ideas about, how UBI could work. I think Tim has some.
That's why I like the word sustenance. Income suggests that it's an income. It's a job replacement, right? Sustenance is meeting your basic minimum needs. That is, that's not going to make you happy, right? But it will give you the means to survive. And then it's up to you to still have the economic incentive and to your pursuit of happiness.
UBS, UBS.
Yeah.
UBS for all.
Yeah. And so that's really why I like that other term. I think that the problem with, socialist concepts like that, and again, I think capitalism is broken. Unbridled,
it's crony
capitalism also doesn't. Yeah. I think all of the systems as they exist today don't work, and that hopefully we're on the threshold of something new emerging that takes the good of it that exists in many of these ideas and Voltrons them together into that new system that will ultimately allow us to evolve.
You know what system does work? Zoom. Because we've been live for 4 hours tonight, and it is really amazing. You talk about a company that scaled quickly and just blew up. Travis, what were the numbers on?
Oh yeah, so before at the end of the year in 2019, they were having about 10 million active users per day, and then it was at the end of March, it was 200 million users a day. And then in the middle of April, it was 300 million. Like 2 weeks later, another 100 million concurrent users per day.
I know I almost bought a bunch of Zoom stock when this started. Oops. I should have bought a bunch of options.
Right.
Well,
Brock, we appreciate you waiting patiently to come on and for sharing with everybody tonight. Where do you prefer for people to go and visit with you?
Well, I'm on all the platforms. It's really whatever platform you are used to using. You can find me on Twitter at Brock Pierce, just my full name, one word. You can find me on Instagram, but with my middle initial. I didn't start my Instagram account early enough. It's at Brock J. Pierce. I've got a new YouTube channel and a new podcast called The Brock Pierce Experience. You can just look up my name, Brock Pierce, 2 words. You should be able to find that channel on YouTube. I try to use everything and try to be more and more available to connect. I'd love to come back on the show with you guys. Love everything you do. Would love to do that with Tim Draper. Tim and I are friends. So I'm sure that would be wonderful and fun. Happy to help twist his arm and encourage him to do that. I love everything you guys do. Keep up the Bad Crypto podcast, and thank you for bringing the community together. I think it's really important during these times as well. A lot of people are falling into depression. People are, feeling really lonely. Yeah. And anytime that you can create these water hole, type of moments that bring people together and remind everyone that you're not alone and keep people focused on the
fact. Man, it sounds to me like you got to come on Wednesday night, because we had this VIP thing last night, and we use these things called breakout rooms. And so people were saying that our breakout rooms and our networking last night was more impactful than in real life networking, because we would break out in these small rooms of like 4 to 7, 8 people, and they would all introduce themselves. And they said, man, I made more connections tonight than I've made at several events. It was awesome.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah, it's really important stuff right now, and thank you for bringing us all together. I'm sure this might actually change some people's lives. It might save some people's lives. And for anybody out there struggling right now, remember, you have a choice to a large extent. It's fear or love, and just remember, if you're feeling down, to pick up the phone, call someone for help. There are, there are lots of people out here. We're here to support you, and remember, this too shall pass.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. You are welcome on this show at any time. And Mr. Travis Wright, how about a quick shout out to our friends at MobiPay?
MobiPay. So, money has been around for a long, long time, ever since people needed to exchange value for something. But in the olden days, it was a little difficult. Like maybe you wanted a goat and you had to trade like 3 chickens for that goat. Or maybe you wanted a cow and you had to trade 8 goats for that cow. But now it's really easy because we have mobile payments. We all have these smartphones laying around, and MobiPay is making life easy for everyone with their MobiPay system. They got the MBX tokens, and they have an ecosystem. They're doing really cool stuff. And there's some really big news and some partnerships that they'll be working on that we'll be talking about in the future. You may want to check it out, mobipay.io. Go over there now, get $10 worth of free MBX tokens before that's gone. We got all these opportunities for you to get free cryptos, and you're not taking advantage of. What's your problem?
Here today, gone tomorrow. Crypto today, gone tomorrow. Definitely take advantage of those while those opportunities are there. So, Travis, in the opener, I referenced the Bart Simpson chart. Do you know what I was talking about there?
What about his hair?
Yeah, because basically Bitcoin went from 9,500 to like 10,300 or so on Monday. I think it happened right after the president said we're going to crack down on rioting and looting, which I think is probably a good thing for the economy. And it responded positively. And then all of a sudden, in like 15 minutes, straight back down again.
I think that's the Batman. Let's get the Batman ears.
Well, that's if it does it again, but like it's
only
straight
done
up
one time.
and then over and then down. That's the Bart Simpson chart.
Okay, very nice. Is that what our friends at Trader Cobb call that?
Either Cobb did or Mati Greenspan. I can't remember which one it was, but it definitely is. I think it's known in the crypto goes up, crypto goes down world. So, we breached that 10K again. So that was a good sign just for Bitcoin in general. It's like, okay, we broke 10K again and we're back down again. I'm going to timestamp this right now.
A lot of the other ones went down too. I noticed there's been some interesting rides going up and down. Some of these cryptos that are doing some really big stuff, and there's been some that have been popping. And it's a fun time to watch. It's almost like, is it going to be altcoin season here soon? Because some of them seem to be really moving. Our friends over at Divvy, they've been going crazy recently.
Yeah, it hit 3 cents and I think a little bit more. When we started talking about them, they were below a half a penny. And while we certainly
3/10 of a penny, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
they've gone, what? That's big time.
Up a lot. Well, if it was 3/10 of a penny, that's 10x.
3 penny, it's gone
right
3x,
to where it is now.
Now it's at $3.
That's not true.
That would be 1,000x.
That would be amazing.
1,000x, yeah.
I would have to dismantle that master node and go buy
on a trip.
Go buy like a 10 square foot island of my own or something.
Right. Fun time.
My own little private space in the middle of nowhere, with a tree on it that,
Joel's Decentraland in real life.
Right. Something like that. Anyway, we'll be talking more about what happens next on Bad News. That comes up Friday night. That'll be episode number 415. And also the Nifty Show will be live on Friday at nifty.show/theta. That's going to take place at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm trying to get the guys from Chain Clash to come on live with us, Travis, because, they set up those avatars, those NFT avatars for us in the fighting game. And I thought, this could be a good opportunity for them to kind of walk us through and show people how the game works and how you access your goods in the wallet.
Yeah. We're also going to talk about a $129,000 token that was minted on the NFTs, which is bizarre. So you folks might notice this. So we have, a show today that's going out that you're hearing, and then we're going to have another show that's coming out on Friday. But Bad Crypto is only going to have 2 shows per week right now. We've switched the cadence up a little bit because we're going to be spending more time on the NFTs. And instead of just having, NFT show every time here. Some of the folks, may not care about NFTs. So we wanted to create its own separate entity so we can talk about all of the fun NFT, non-fungible tokens and digital collectibles every week over there. So actually on Fridays, you're going to be getting 2 shows from us, it sounds like.
Yes. Although the Friday show will then, what we'll do after the live is we turn that into a podcast. So please do go and support the Nifty Show as well. You'll find it now. Just got the email this morning that it is now on radio.com as well. So radio, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, and iTunes. And if you'll go subscribe there, that helps support.
Did you say Spotify?
I did say Spotify.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're on all the places again, just like old times.
Most of the places that matter. So we appreciate your support. And as we march forward in this blockchain world, even though it's June, we're marching. Can you believe we're almost halfway through this year? I mean, this year can't end soon enough, honestly. 2020 is asshole.
It is. And what's been wild is so remember a couple of years ago, I think it was in 2018, I was talking about doing fasting. And I started fasting, and then I did a 12.5 day fast. Well, then one of our listeners messaged me, Stephen Applegate, and he decided to take it a step further. He would fast a week and then eat a week and then fast a week, but then he was having lots of kombucha. And I was thinking about that. I was like, I don't like fasting for a week because then I just get really hangry, but I can do 3 days. And so what I'm doing now is something that I'm calling the WTF diet. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm fasting. And then those other days, I'm going to eat whatever the fuck I want. So it's like WTF all over the place. So I did that last week. And man, I felt so good.
Now I got to bleep. Thanks.
I don't know if you got to bleep.
All right. Maybe we'll leave it in.
Our friends in India, that's the only reason we bleep.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter anyway because we're not on there. So explicit. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Anyways. WTF. I'm fasting again, because I felt great last week doing that. And man, by day 3, your brain really has super clarity as you're burning ketones.
You know what gave me super clarity is my haircut. You did too. We both got our haircut. Yes, I got mine yesterday. You got yours today. I lost about 5 pounds off my head. If you go
check
the
Dapper Crypto podcast right now.
Yeah. If you go check my Instagram, you can see. You can't tell with Travis anyway because he's always got his hat on. So
that's true, but I was getting this weird looking mullet thing growing that was out of control, so I had to fix that.
You're gonna have to go.
It's like when I'm driving down the road and I can feel my hair on the back blowing in the wind. I was like, yeah, that's a little Joe Dirt-ish. I need to fix this.
Well, there you go. Hey, gang, we'd love to hear from you. Write us, badcryptopodcast@gmail.com, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Until then, please stay bad.